felt kind of disappointed, like everybody's haggling with each other, and some of it seems so high school and immature. But Paula, what was your comment on that?
Well, my comment, and I'm glad Scott's joined in, you know, it was just an accident. Scott happened to call up. But my comment on that is I want people to leave whatever is closest to their heart on my blog, on my comments. And if they're angry at me, or if they're upset, and if they want to use swear words, I want them to be able to do that. But then I want freedom back again to be able to respond to it. And sometimes I need more than nasty labels to do it. So then I'll go in there and I'll ask for it. And I think in that case, I know I'm provoking even more deeper feelings. So I take responsibility for that. I put out provocative information. But the reason I do it, it's kind of like trying to draw poison out. Like I'm really just so delighted, Hella, about this show, and that's why I'm capturing everything, because I have worked with Scott for months now, and we do exchange tapes very easily, and we respect where each other's coming from, and we both know that we're working against great odds. You know, we don't have big organizations behind us, but there's something emerging that's so beautiful, which is the kind of an authentic creativity of just the regular person. And so I want to be able to do my work in such a way that I encourage more of that in other regular people, so that to me that's the new media.
Yeah.
So even if I can understand how you would be, well, obviously offended by some of the things you're reading, but I still encourage it. You know, I don't want people to behave. I want them to be...
Well, no, I don't. I'm not saying I want them to behave, but sometimes it just seems like cheap shots, or oh, you look sexy, or I want to do this or that, or I don't know. That's just part of human nature and expression too.
Well, I think actually what you're stumbling on, and I go back to Strategic Communication Laboratory.cc, scl.cc for those who care. There are professionals on my site, you know.
Yeah, I had that feeling when I was reading it too. Something didn't ring.
Yeah.
True. Where, you know, Blasting Caps, is it okay if I say a name?
Yeah.
You know, he has a lot of kind of anger stuff, and yet there's something real there, so I kind of like reading Blasting Caps.
I know. Blasting Caps was in prison for 5 years for LSD. Actually,
is he okay with you saying that?
Oh, no, yeah, he's okay with me for saying that, for sure. Because he's left comments telling his story. Blasting Caps probably left initially some of the nastiest comments. But what I noticed was when I revisited them after months, he was intuitively, maybe like a convict who has to operate from a deeper gut level of survival in such a horrible thing as the prison system, he picked up on what I think Scott and I were a little slower on, which is some of the cult mentality. I'm sorry, if I just could find a better word to not get you to react, I would, but I just don't know what other word to use, because these groups have been organized to actually bring about a certain agenda, and that is to distract people from the obvious deception that was done on television during 9/11. But
see, when maybe we should look up the word cult. Maybe I'm getting carried away with it. I don't know, but it's implying anything that has the label cult is negative.
Well, it technically shouldn't. It's from the same Latin root word as cultivate.
Okay.
But and culture. But I do use it negatively too. I take responsibility for that, because I'm saying if a group of people are blocking knowledge, and and they're creating a group think so that you deviate out of the group, then I think that is.
And that goes back to mind control.
Right.
But
yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
One of the things of cult, it says, I'm looking on.
Oh, good.
On the website, it says obsessive, especially fetish, devotion to or veneration for a person, principle, or thing. That's one of them. And then there's other ones like a religion, a religious sect, generally considered to be extremist or false.
Extremist. That's where I get.
Yeah, with its followers often living in an unconventional manner under the guidance of an authoritarian, charismatic leader, or the followers of such a religious. I mean, there's like 6 of them, so I mean, it really depends on how someone wants to break it down. would think it would be that. I mean, I honestly don't think cults are bad. I think it's whatever the individual wants to believe in. You know?
Well, and it's a modern society version definition, I think, too.
Yeah, sure. But then what would it be? For example, like what would we call cults nowadays to make it less negative?
Good question. Maybe people have feedback on that, because I was thinking that some of the concepts Paula's bringing up sounds more like brainwashing.
Well, see, now here we get back to again, we're coming full circle. Mm-hmm. What about having your brain washed of pressure, of stress, of how Howard Stern said his mother was suicidal over her sister dying?
Detox brain.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, sorry.
No, actually, that's exactly it, Hella. That's
exactly. And why would that be a poisonous bite from a snake?
That's what I'm saying. What Jean Klein said, he would. I puzzled over his behavior for years, and only recently am I understanding some of the things that he said, and I'm sure I'll grow to understand more. I think what he was pointing out, he actually said it in another time. He said that samadhi is a sweet given to the disciple by the master. So I think just like you give a child sugar, in many ways the transcendental experience can be like a sweet, and like sweets you can become addicted to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree yet, but I'm just thinking it all over, because also Krishnamurti, what did he say? He wasn't, he was...
Oh, he was very derogatory.
He was born in a higher state, and he just expected people to experience it. Just allow what's there to be experienced.
Well, see,
don't label it and overanalyze it. But that's easier said than done. I think that was Maharishi's comment about Krishnamurti. He was born there, but he didn't tell anybody how to take the path up to the high hill where he was sitting. So how do you tell somebody when you already have it? How do I explain levitation or whatever that experience was?
Right.
And that was part of the feeling I had during it. This is so simple. This is just what it is. All this talk, it's too much talk.
Yeah, but why aren't people going to that experience?
Well, I think it goes back to the relative pressure every day, although I had it out of that pressure. Going into a creative artist for a minute, William Carlos Williams, a great American poet, he didn't have the ability to make a job any other way than through science, through medicine, even though he couldn't make a living through poetry. So he did what he was good at the time, which was he could become a doctor, or in those days when they'd go to people's houses, and he figured if he had 5 minutes in between patients to write his poetry, that was enough. And so
wow.
That's always been in my mind, because we do make excuses for whatever reasons. Procrastination is such an awful word, I know, but that always inspired me. He was one of my favorite poets.
What do you think of that, Scott? Who's responsible for our stress?
It could be a collective thing. I mean, we can be responsible for our stress, but also the cause. I think, it really depends on the person and how they can handle it, I think. But
sometimes, Scott, have you felt more productive when you knew there was pressure? Like Paula, when you said when I went a long 9-month teacher training TM course, you would value the little in-between time you had when you weren't learning how to instruct people and all of the information, some people might say brainwashing or tapes that you watched, but it made me value my time so much, and I was more productive in that time. I'm still that way when I know I have to go somewhere at a certain time. So,
well, Hella, just like I respected your opinion about Howard Stern, even though that wasn't part of my life, but I paid attention because of you. I also pay attention. Why do you think you're not meditating now?
I think about that too. One thought is, and I really feel it's easier when there's somebody in your household meditating with you. And I meditated more when I lived by myself.
But look at...
And I don't know the reason. I'm not making it...
Okay, but I know the person you're thinking about. If it wasn't for him, we never would have gone to that Marshall Rosenberg thing together. And I think...
Oh, I don't even mean him. It could have been my former husband wasn't. I got caught up in, too, and I still... the do. There's so much exciting stuff to do and activity. that you figure, well, I know that works. I can do it later. Like the ace up my sleeve when I need it.
But what about Jean Klein saying you have to wait for the invitation? You're just saying you've had a couple decades where there was no invitation. Is that a
possibly? And remember, Maharishi said you never stop meditating. You never quit meditating. You never really lose it. That's the same thing, I think, as waiting for the invitation, even though we were taught a little bit more regimentally to sit down twice a day. Regardless of your mood, don't be moved by your mood.
I know that, but you know, I actually found the roots of TM on the banks of the Varanasi River. It's like people make pilgrimages in India to different parts of the Divine Mother's body. That's how the Indian mind works. You know, this is her foot and this is her head, and you know, you can imagine, you know, the yeah, that's a real hot spot there. But Varanasi, I'm not exactly sure what part of the body that is, but it's a very important part, and that's kind of like
Varanasi, no.
It's kind of like what Jerusalem is to the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians. Varanasi is to the Hindus and to the Muslims. They also recognize the power of the spot. But when I sat on the banks of the Varanasi River, I swear to you, it was pure energy of transcendental meditation. It was just like such a revelation that I actually found the source of where that technique came from. Now, the other thing is the behavior that you'll see among TM people about meditating twice a day is very similar to the Muslims praying 5 times a day. So having been there and done that, and having seen value in that, because you do get carried away with your activities, and so you say, no, I'm not going to do it, then a guy like Jean Klein comes along and maybe tells you something that's a little bit more advanced than your level of consciousness can handle. So I actually consciously stopped it for a number of years, was rather resentful of it, feeling that it had distracted me. I'd been involved in a cult and so on. And only recently, when the young master from India, Swami Kaleshwar, said, no effort is unwasted. So he recognized that I was sort of in that bitter berry state where I felt like I had wasted my time. And he said, it was just that the big gurus never taught what it was that they did to achieve their stature. And he felt his role was to come out and talk about the Divine Mother. And like I'm saying, I follow you with great respect. Your comments about Howard Stern. Also, I respect why you don't meditate, but I also see that there.
Can't wait to start. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, keep me posted.
Stop. See, you never stop. But I don't want to interrupt a good flow here. I did by accident.
No, you didn't. You didn't, because when I say you never stop, or when Jean Klein said you never stop, he wasn't talking about, you know, being blasted in this transcendental state during the day. Right. I think it was more of an inquiry, who am I? And something like Scott Goldberg, what he went through with his, I call it an initiation of fire with Alex Jones, that's a mighty force to go up against.
Sure.
What he did.
Well, life is a mighty force, too, to go up against, if you look at it that way or flow with it.
Right.
Incline life springs up and letting go.
Right.
And the thing is, there is no letting go. Letting go implies an activity or something you have to do, which TM, that's sort of the pity of it. You don't want it to be another thing you have to do, a technique that must be done. Right. Also, at this point in my life, I think to always feel you have choice and freedom is important, so you don't need more head trips twice a day to meditate. By the way, working with color and style, this isn't the right color. It's not about that.
Right.
It's about a chance, something you have as a, what's it called, a backup, a choice, a reserve, to draw on when the times come up, when the invitation comes up.
Right.
Otherwise, it's dogma and restriction, and it stops all the growth.
Right. You know, Hella, it's getting sort of so much time on.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to do, Scott, if you have some closing comments, you can make them. But let's have a whole show where Hella actually does Scott's colors. Could we do that?
If I can, get the...
What do you think, Scott?
What do you mean by that? What color is like...
I'm going to get you.
Can you explain, Hella, to Scott what you do and to the viewers?
gosh, can I do it fast, or should they go to a website? I don't feel like I can fast enough.
No, do it whatever you want. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'd like to do a whole show on it.
Yeah.
And
I work with people's color and style, which means I recommend what colors visually are good for you based on the colors in your skin.
Sure. Okay.
And then also the style lines, meaning what type of clothing you'd wear based on your bone structure.
Sure.
And the intention being that if you're more harmonious in your appearance, you feel better inside and out, and so does the viewer. So if you're going down making a documentary and you're wearing a certain color and style, I know style sounds a little highfalutin, but a shape that works for you, you'll be more receptive. The person who's looking at you will be more receptive to you and possibly you to them, because we are affected by what we see, whether it's art, what we hear. You know, it's very powerful. It's powerful to become visually authentic, and something we often aren't used to because there's so much information out there that something's wrong with us and how we look, and we should look like this person, wear that color, and this is the color of the season, instead of what works for us. And that's the most powerful thing.
Can you tell just looking at his website here? His curly hair, his arms there, anything? Or is it too small?
Well, he's a handsome guy, but
yeah, other than
he could have a little striking. My screen's quite small now because it's on the streaming picture. What color eyes do you have?
Brown.
Brown, And would you have olive in your skin? Would you say warm skin or cool skin? Do those terms make any sense to you?
Oh, Paul, what do you think?
You know, I've always sort of deferred to experts on this, and you get a
I
color,
can't,
and
of
it's,
course that's a black and white picture.
I
We
know.
can make a joke about that, but even sometimes you can see contrast in black and white.
right.
Johnny Depp's a great example of a striking type, very dark hair, and there's a contrast between his hair and skin and eyes.
Sure.
And then the bone structure part would be drama. There's an intensity in his face.
He's definitely an intense person.
Yeah, but that's, who, Scott or Johnny
Scott.
Depp?
Oh, no, Scott. Oh, I was
I
talking
was
about
shocked that you would know Johnny Depp. Paula doesn't usually know movie stars very well.
Get in contact with him, Paula.
Anyway, it would be fun to do a show where I can take more time. I'm not good at quick answers on it because it's such a big area.
Maybe I would suggest that you look at that Dr. Breeding show because it was so interesting.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
And then if you only saw the beginning part, there was a lot of intensity in Scott's energy towards the end as he's developing the whole philosophy about over-drugging children and also the elderly, too.
Sure.
So.
Huge topics. Howard Stern, well, yeah, we won't go into it all now. There's so much to say, isn't there, once you get rolling?
I know. It's just, if I don't cut myself off, I actually start to burn out later in the day.
Me too.
Because there's so many ideas, and Hella, I want to thank you so much for allowing this to happen. I wanted to do a special birthday show for you, but it looks like I'm going to be doing an entire birthday week.
Oh, good.
And thanks to Scott calling up. Scott, I think we can do a lot of healing with your situation, because I was at Ground Zero last Saturday, and 2 of the We Are Changers are going to come over, and we're going to privately look at September clues. And perhaps you might want to come along. You don't have to. I'm just throwing it out.
Sure.
But good.
At your place?
Yeah, good things are happening. That's the point.
Sure. Okay.
That's right.
And I appreciate you, Hella, because I think the harmony and the beauty and the balance is going to be a part of those good things.
Well, I appreciate you and Scott for your work you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Nice talking to you, Scott.
You too.
Look forward to it again.
Any closing thoughts, Scott, since we sort of...
Well, like I said in it before, I think it's all based on the individual, and I think there's just so many people and you go in so many different ways. Hopefully, at some point, we all can, or majority of us can connect with one another and be able to, I guess, not just agree. I'm not saying everyone, but just to be able to connect and respect one another. I think there's not a lot of respect in the world right now. With
right.
A lot of people are upset with their jobs. They're very stressed out, and I think people just shouldn't lose hope. It's really up to us to make that difference. So.
That's beautifully said. Thank you so much. So,
Definitely.
So I guess I'll just say happy birthday, Hella. I just wish you many, many happy returns, and I really look forward to working with you more.
Me too. I'm already feeling the returns.
Oh, good.
Nice talking to you both. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. So there we go. That was my sister on her birthday with Scott Goldberg, which was, every time I plan things, it never turns out how I plan. And I'm just amazed at how it usually turns out so much better. And this was one such day. So, happy birthday, Hella. Bye. So I'll be ending the stream here and shutting off the... I'd love to have your thoughts. Then let me pull up your website.
Whatever you want to do. I'm sort of at my leisure. I got a number of things to do. Got that thing coming in tonight and everything, but whatever you say.
Let's talk about tonight. I'm going to get Channer TV up. And, oops, Channer. I got Channer Corporation. Oh, no, that's not you.
Hardly.
Let's see. Channer. Channer.tv, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Channer Corporation. That's a whole nother...
Yeah, they're in Chicago.
Right. Oh, you know them. Okay.
Yeah, I know of them. We've been in touch. And they had a bank in Chicago. Channer Newman Security. It was Channer Securities.
Is there anything you can say related to what we were talking to about the different generations coming together, or the internet, or physical meetings and so on?
You were all over. You're talking vegetarian, veganism, and all that stuff. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
I found it and lovely. It was very beautiful because you all blended so well and everything. It was really good.
Can you talk though, Harold, about
You want me to talk now?
Well,
yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it was such a good energy, and I don't want to lose this chance. My sister and I were very involved in transcendental meditation. She more so with the technique, although she became a teacher and went on a very long course. I was very involved more in the working for the movement definitely at slave labor wages. So I had a different experience than she did, but still we both value the ability to sort of unwind and get a wider grasp of things. I guess a comprehensive experience. Maybe that's a meditation for you, Harold? The comprehensive?
Well, I don't know. That's good to be comprehensive, and I've not experienced that, so I don't know what you're talking about. You spoke about a very beautiful feeling when you're on a river, and something you mentioned the term samadhi, and all of those things are outside my experience. So.
Well, Maharishi was the one that said Buckminster Fuller was in the state of cosmic consciousness, which we believed was when transcendental awareness never leaves you. And I'm just wondering, when you were listening to Buckminster Fuller, did he expand your awareness? And
yes, yeah, absolutely. Except one of the things I take as an outsider to all of that Vedic tradition is the notion of bodhisattva. They got a thing called bodhisattva.
Right.
And that's a thing where somebody reaches samadhi and then come back to the plane of material reality, in a sense like a shepherd, to make sure everyone is able to realize that. And then, as my image is, that the bodhisattva then would make, like Babe. You mentioned the movie Babe, but that everyone is able to do that, so it's a comprehensive inclusion, and then they would be the last to go through the gate. I see an awful lot of people who are really running hard to get through that gate before anybody, ahead of the crowd. Notions in terms of not only secular, but even in some spiritual traditions and so forth.
what do you think will change that, Harold?
I don't know, maybe nature, evolution. Evolution's a long process. And I'm grounded in Western things and everything like that. I was very struck when you were talking about vegan or vegetarian. I think we're omnivores, by nature in terms of what's evolved. And I do remember Christopher Bird, and you mentioned it at one point. He had a book called The Secret Life of Plants, and
Right.
they were able to measure what is comparable in perhaps a low level of our thinking, hierarchical and so forth, but what would be, quote unquote, the emotional or the sense of pain that is registered with very fine, what do they call them? I forget now. Systems of measuring plant reaction.
Electrodes.
Pain. And that people who think we cannot eat meat is just being egotistical because it's something, and it may be egotism is not so all bad, but that they don't want to be having anything to do with slaughtering things that are closer to us, but they will slaughter the lessers. It would be like the kings and the nobles would not think about slaughtering each other, but they would slaughter the peasants. Mm-hmm. And that it's all a seamless web. So that I remember you mentioning that. And Fuller, for whatever it's worth, was somebody who was very favorably inclined toward technology. And I guess I'm in the mode of thinking that it is technology that is causing the transformations that we experience in this particular time frame, and it's also technology that would, again in quotes, perhaps have the ability to set us free from systems that we're coming out of that nightmare scenario that James Joyce called history. So I'm very much of a technophile. But he used to say there was a period in his life where, because he went up and down in weight and so forth, he was a human being, but he said in the Vedic they have a concept of prana, or energy, I guess. It's called chi, I think, in the Chinese tradition. But he observed how through the food cycle, there's a concentration of prana, or energy. So you have free-flowing grass, and then you have it concentrated in the grain of the thing. And then when the creatures, or say the cattle, eat the grain, there's a concentration of energy. And he, for a long time in his life, I don't know exactly how long in terms of diet, all he ate was beef. There's a concentration of energy. And he, for a long time in his life, I don't know exactly how long in terms of diet, all he ate was beef and drank tea. And he said that the prana is concentrated in order to obtain the energy that's contained in the metabolic process, or